Good morning. Good morning. This is the Franklin County Fiscal Court work session for February 21st, 2020. Before we get started, I've asked Dr. Absada to be here from the First Christian Church. Dr. Absada, thank you. We really appreciate you being here and leading us in prayer this morning.
My pleasure. Let's pray together. Gracious, loving God, we give you thanks for each and every day, for every second that we live, that we might live them fully in the moment, being aware of those around us and those who are away from us. We pray especially today for Marty, who is away from us. Bring healing into her life, that she might be restored and be back with us. We confess that at every level of government and every level of life, that our discourse has become vulgar and divided. We have forgotten that we have much more in common than we have that separate us. So as the fiscal court works together for the good of Franklin County, may their minds be attentive to those things that we hold in common, so that the things that divide us seem not so wide and so deep, and that progress might be made for the good of all the people. We ask this in the name of the one that is holy, who is the Creator, and who holds each of us in loving arms. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Absada. We're so honored that you come lead us in prayer. As Dr. Absada had mentioned, that one of our magistrates, Squire Booth, has had an accident and is recovering, and we'll have an announcement about something for her at the end of the session. Also, we have another magistrate whose father is gravely ill, and we extend our prayers to the Sebastian family. Squire Sebastian's father is going through some extensive issues, and she is with him, working with him. So prayers to the Sebastian family as well as to Squire Booth. Good morning, everybody. We're going to start out this morning's work session with the resolution with the from the Constitution, in support of the Constitution of the United States, and there are several people here to speak. So I'm going to give each of you up to 2 minutes to speak. If you would, when you're called, if you'll come forward and state your name, and then make your presentation. So please stay within the 2-minute guideline. There won't be, you can give another minute to somebody else, so 2 minutes, and that's all everybody will get. So the first person on the agenda is Mr. Charlie Sewell. Mr. Sewell, welcome, and please, once again, if you will present your name there at the podium. Thank you.
Mr. Sewell. My name is Charlie Sewell, and I am the leader of the United Kentuckians of Franklin County for the Second Amendment rights. And the reason that we're here today is, to talk to you all about it. Mr. Sparks and I have looked over the resolution. We've talked about it extensively Wednesday, and I'm not, as I told Mr. Sparks, I'm not real happy with the way it's worded. It's really broad, but it covers, I think, everything that we want it to cover. And we just want to be sure that the fiscal court supports our rights, our Second Amendment rights, and we don't want them infringed upon. I mean, there's legislators now, and every day, there's bills going up in front of the legislature every day that's trying to take these rights away from us. There's no need in it. There's laws out there that govern the control of guns and all types of weapons, and all they want to do is just keep on piling. Instead of enforcing the laws that are there, they want to put more upon us. Our law enforcement has enough to do without going through all this rigmarole again. It doesn't make good sense. And like I said, I just want to be sure that the fiscal court supports our rights and they will uphold those rights as stated in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. That's all I got to say.
Are
Thank
there,
you, sir.
are there
Oh, yes, sir.
questions?
So, thank you for coming. So is it accurate to say that you're okay, you working with the county attorney, you feel like there's compromise been made and, that you support the resolution that's
Yes.
been drafted?
Yeah, Rick and I, like I said, we went over it extensively and he explained to me why.
Poor Charlie had to suffer through listening to me talk for about an hour on the phone.
We talked so long his phone went dead.
And I
That's how long we
appreciate
spent.
you. Yes, sir. Thank
He's
you.
used that line on me too, it's just, you know.
That's what I told him I was gonna get accused of.
I thought he just got, so, well, I talked to him enough, I quit.
But not true, not true, not true.
But no, he, his phone went dead, he called me back, and like I said, we spent a long time, couple of hours, probably close to, talking it over and going over it in detail. And like I said, there's some wording in there, I wish there was some other wording in there, but I agree with the way it's written, and we'll accept it.
Okay, are there any other questions for Mr. Sewell? Mr. Sewell, before you leave, I want to compliment you on your, as Dr. Absada said, there's more that unites us than divides us. And you have spoken clearly about uniting as opposed to division, and I applaud you for you have been out front with this issue, and you've made your thoughts very clear in your speaking today and through your emails, and you have maintained civil discussion the whole time. So I applaud you and thank you for keeping us together and not dividing us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person to speak is Kaylin Studler. Welcome, Mr. Studler.
Well, glad to be here today. This is my home county, and my name's Caitlin Studler. I do live here. I'm here to support this resolution. I want to make it very clear that I completely support the Second Amendment to the Constitution and the Kentucky Constitution's reiteration of it, and all the Constitution as it's written. I would like to read a scripture verse. It says, Jeremiah 6:16 says, Thus saith the Lord, stand ye in the way and see and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein. I read that scripture and relate it to the Second Amendment and our Constitution in this way. Just as the Bible tells us to remember the traditions we have as it pertains to our faith, we must remember the traditions we have as it pertains to our Constitution. The Federalist number 29 by Alexander Hamilton said, a well-regulated militia be the most natural defense of a free country. Thurgood Marshall stated in Skinner versus Railway Labor Executive Association, which is a Fourth Amendment case, that history teaches that grave threats to liberty often come in times of urgency when constitutional rights seem too extravagant to endure. The founders knew the importance of a well-armed citizen, and it had everything to do with government tyranny. But let's be clear, I'm not in fear of government tyranny, and that is mostly because of the Second Amendment and my faith in God. Our Constitution is not a living document. It is a document that means exactly what it says, and the original intent and the meaning of the writers of the Constitution guides its interpretation. The Second Amendment is the only amendment that says, shall not be infringed. I've heard a lot of sad stories about red flag laws and people wanting to take guns away from people that might be mentally challenged or what have you. I've heard those stories and I sympathize. I've lost a brother to suicide by a gun myself. But that is no reason to be able to give an unlawful search and seizure based on hearsay as it pertains to red flag laws. We cannot say out of one side of our mouth, I know we don't deal with it here, that you disagree with stop and frisk and then agree with a red flag law.
Thank you. Hold on. Are there any questions for Mr. Studler? Seeing no questions, thank you. Thank you for your words, sir. Thank you. Okay, next person, Mr. Bill Clyer. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for all listening to me today. I actually thought I was signing in for my attendance. But
Well, welcome.
I am glad to be here. I am glad to be here. And I'd just like to say that as this is written, I think that it makes entire sense that we all support the Constitution. We support the Constitution of this state. I don't understand why we would spend our tax dollar payer money on drafting such a resolution when it's something so incredibly obvious. There's nothing in there that says anything about the Second Amendment other than we were going to support the Constitution. I totally support the Constitution, and I don't see why we have to have a document that says we're going to support the Constitution. As we all know, there's a hierarchy of laws in the United States, and federal law trumps, that's a bad word,
Touche. Supersede.
supersedes, thank you, Judge, supersedes state law, and that supersedes county law. So we all support the Constitution. As far as our Second Amendment rights go, I do think that we have a living Constitution, that the forefathers put the Constitution together in such a manner that they knew that times would change, and I think that it's important that we amend the laws to respect those times. There's no way that they would have known of the things that were coming, and I think it's important that we respect the victims of violence and address the culture of violence in this country. And so that's all I've got to say about that. Thank you all.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Hold on, sir. Are there any questions for Mr. Clyre? Seeing no questions, thank you, sir. The next person to speak is, the next person to speak is Linda Lane. Welcome, Ms. Lane.
Thank you. I am speaking as an individual. I am a member of Moms Demand Action, but I also reside in Frankfurt. And I want to say thank you to the Second Amendment people for making a civil appearance. As I'm on my way in, I was thinking, I got my will made. Never did buy that life insurance program. I hope these fellows don't show up with their mask and their guns. Okay, okay, that was my thought. And your thoughts were probably, those moms, people, they're gonna just want to take my guns away. Nobody's trying to take anybody's guns away. I am a strong believer in common sense gun policy. We need emergency protective orders. They're not forever orders, they're emergency protective orders. They have due process built into them. I have a son that's a criminal defense attorney. Okay? There's due process built into these laws, and they have been proven effective in the states that have enacted them. They have cut down on the suicide rates. The gentleman whose brother was committed suicide via gun, this type of order may have saved his life. They're not randomly given out. And I also want to say that this country has a problem with gun violence. You can close your eyes, you can close your ears, but it exists. Other countries that tell people not to come and visit certain areas of this country because of the high rate of gun violence. And do you want to raise your children in such a society? Do you want to raise your grandchildren in such a society? I have a daughter who teaches high school here in Frankfurt. After the Marshall shooting and the scares that they had at their high school, the students asked to sit and eat their lunch in her classroom because they were afraid to sit in an open lunchroom because they were too much at risk being out in the open. I live next door to 5 children whose mother was shot and killed in an act of gun violence here in this county. 5 children who are growing up without a mother.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hold on. Are there any questions for Ms. Lane before she sits down? Ms. Lane, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I want, sitting in this chair, before I go to you, Mr. Sparks, to talk about the resolution, I want to say how proud I am to be the county judge in Franklin County, to hear the civility of all of you that are passionate, and rightfully so. Each of you have your passion about this issue. And you came up, you spoke with civility, you even talked and complimented each other. That's the way it should be. Franklin County is a model. That's the way it should be in our state, in our country as well. Thank you for showing the civility. I appreciate all of you being here. Now we're going to discuss the resolution ourselves. So you can listen to the discussion by the magistrates. And magistrates, if you want to call someone else up to talk, if you have a question, I will allow that as well. Mr. Sparks, will you lead us in the development as you develop this resolution?
Yes, sir, Judge, and while everybody's here, this is something that I preach in my practice all the time. They don't read this document. If I ask to raise your hand right now, which section of the right to bear arms is contained in the Kentucky Constitution, who can raise their hand? There you go, brother. They don't read it. We had a bill passed or presented up in the House this winter. They might have been pre-filed. It was Kentucky's version of stop and frisk. Were y'all aware of that one? Allowed up to 2 hours. Which section of the Constitution is that violated? 4, 5, 10, 14, due process. Okay? Nobody talked about it. Well, except people like me going, oh my God, what are you people doing? Have y'all read, the Constitution? They haven't. And that's unfortunate. Our leaders don't read it. They don't know what it says. Anybody quote the preamble besides those of us raised on Saturday morning cartoons and we the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare? Nobody pays attention to that anymore, and that's sad. And as I told Mr. Sewell, the thing that I was proudest when I got to read this, and I don't get it till everybody else has vetted it and probably made promises and talked politics and thought about how good it was before they ever read the whole thing, because they didn't raise their hand when I asked about section 17, did they, Mr. Studler? Nope, they didn't, because they didn't know. I mean, nobody reads. This is what we need to do as a government at every opportunity, because I'm going to read you something else. Under Kentucky's section 228 of the Kentucky Constitution, and I got the pleasure of reading this the first time in 1995 when I went into the bar, and it goes like this. Members of the General Assembly and all officers, before they enter the execution of their duties of their respective offices, and all members of the bar, before they enter upon the practice of their profession, shall take the following oath. That's our oath of office, and it starts, line 1. I do solemnly swear or affirm, as the case may be, that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and remain faithful and true therein. And we didn't fight a duel since the establishment of the Constitution in 1891. When I received from the judge, and this is to you all, the copy of the resolution, the first thing that I thought was, this is bad. Because you can't elevate one right above the other. They're all the rights that we all bought into. And I saw the news out of Virginia, and I saw sheriffs saying that they were going to declare what's constitutional or not. And I remember the second case that we studied at the University of Louisville Law School, which is Marbury versus Madison. The Constitution had been barely passed in 1787, and there was a dispute about who gets to decide what the law is. Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution establishes that is the judiciary, and Marbury versus Madison stood for the proposition that all of us don't make that call. That the courts read the law, the legislative branch passes it, and the executive enforces it. So when I read this first resolution and various iterations thereof, my first reaction was some of them violated some statutes. Some of them were very precise, but I didn't have a bill or an ordinance or a precept that was objected to. It was a general principle. And some of them reiterated our oath that I took in 95, that I took in 05, and each of us sitting around this table took as part of being here. And because of that, I expressed to the judge great concern, and I said, I think there's a better way of doing this, in appreciation and respect for the attention brought to all of our constitutional rights. Constitutional rights are enumerated. Has anybody heard that phrase before? I mean, enumerated. They're not set out. They're enumerated. That means they existed before, but they just wrote them down. The constitutional rights exist, and there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of them under controversy. There are rights that have been recognized, established, and stated, which are under attack and challenged even as we speak right now. Some of them, there are 3 bills pending, I think, that affect gun rights right now. One of them is registration, one of them school funding, one of them school resource officers should they carry a gun, and the other would further allow open carry without consent. I think when I checked last week, there were 4. That may have changed this morning because I don't know who's doing what today. But I drafted it in conformity of the revisions, and that's what I explained to Mr. Sewell. So Mr. Sewell, if I say something that I didn't say before, you tell me, wait, you didn't say that. This is what I told you I was going to say. I drafted this to recognize each and every official's affirmative duty under the Constitution. Not to pick and choose like a Chinese buffet, whether or not you're going to eat the egg roll first or you're going to eat the egg roll at all. You got to eat it all and suck it up. If you don't take this oath and go out, hit the road, because you're not conforming with your oath. If I'm not going to follow all of them when I'm over in district court and I'm faced with a questionable issue regarding the 6th Amendment, and I raise Cain about somebody being denied a lawyer and object to it, well, I've violated my oath, and I'm rather attached to my license. I want to tell you that. I'm rather attached to the oath that I took as to represent this body. So what I tried to do in the absence of a specific bill to target or specific idea, and to honor those who are standing up and saying we need to remember all of our constitutional rights. We need to stand up for them. That's rule 1. I drafted this in the broadest form to reflect the oath of office that we took, to reflect that the way matters get adjudicated, and I used careful words like adjudged and found under Article 3 in the Supreme Court, which is the arbiter of the U.S. Constitution, or the Kentucky Constitution, which is in the Supreme Court, same deal, to remind and renew our sworn obligation for which people died, for which compromises were made in 1787, for which debates occurred in 1891, and for which we are all duty-bound to follow. And it is broad. It's not weak, though. I take exception to any characterization that would describe this resolution as weak. It reaffirms this body's obligation to our community, to each other, and for the Constitution that we swore to uphold. So I stand by it. Vote it up or down, it's your call. It doesn't matter at the end of the day because you still have to follow the things written in here because you took the oath. So it is what it is. If you want to talk about it, there we go.
Thank you. Discussion? Squire Moore?
Yeah. You said yourself, Rick, that people don't read it.
No,
And that's-
no, they don't
that's
read
the
it. They don't
problem
read it.
we-
That's the problem.
That's the problem we have, and that's why I want the Second Amendment put in this, to tell them that, to take a special attention to the Second Amendment, because you're not reading they're not reading it.
They've not read the
And
fourth
so-
one. They haven't
so
read
they're
all. Y'all, I mean, let's be honest. Y'all read the Kentucky Constitution lately?
I read it, but my
You got the
memory-
U.S. one. You got
I
the
don't-
Kentucky one. You do though. Okay, you're the second person I know, not counting on mine, that I've
My
actually
little
gone
mind
through.
doesn't retain stuff that.
But my point is, I'm not arguing. I don't disagree, but I was concerned about elevating one right to the other because then what'll
I
happen.
understand that, but
I
I want to send a
personally-
message up that they need to read that and they need to abide by it. And if someone comes in and they're not, I don't have a tool to stop them. And I would like to send that message to them that we support the Second Amendment.
Then I will presume that next week we can have one for the 3rd because I know nobody wants prisoners housed or army housed in their houses. that when we have discussions
I
about other
understand your
things, you know,
argument.
on and on and on. And that's why I kept it broad, because I didn't have an ordinance to say we're not in favor of X. Because, and that was, I understand that completely. That's why I
Broad
eliminated that
looks
question.
watered down for what we wanted, to me. It's not, and I understand your reasoning here, I really do, but
Well, I mean, I respect that. That's why I drafted this way, to make it in conformity of the full obligations, including the second.
but like you said, this means nothing.
It doesn't. That's not true. It means everything, because
It does, but we've already done
you're
it. We've
renewing
already
it.
made our
Yeah,
oaths.
but you're stating it publicly again. For those of us who may not have read this Kentucky or the U.S. Constitution, which I keep my book in my briefcase still. This does restate, and I think maybe this is honestly, and I appreciate everybody here who brought it up. Maybe about every once so often, not every 4 years, ought to be read over again.
True.
But I digress on that one. That's why I drafted it that way.
All right, any other discussion?
I'd like to just thank our county attorney for taking this on, because I know it was a big thing. Charlie Sewell, Bill Clear, all you here. I mean, there's half a room of people that have taken your time to come and talk to us. And I do think, Judge, like you said, it was nice seeing everybody talk about the other side, you know? So I think that's good respect, and I think everyone knows, you know, right from wrong. So thank you for coming.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay, is the consensus of the governing body that we move forward with this resolution to a vote?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for being here on this issue. Okay, we're gonna move, I'm once again gonna do a little bit of changing around. I'm gonna ask Judy Mattingly to talk a little bit about the flu and the coronavirus in Franklin County. Thank you, Judy, for being here.
I don't, thanks for asking us to come.
If you'll hold on one second, let's let
Oh, of
the
course.
house
Amy's
clear
still
out a
getting
little
the
bit.
Presentation pulled up too.
Hey, Bill, Mike, be careful next time signing those pieces of paper.
You're right.
That's why Carrie's always in charge, right?
Nobody, they can give you a mortgage to sign at the same time.
See you.
Thank you.
Okay, Judy, thank you.
So thank you again for inviting us to come. We've been hearing about two really important topics in the news lately that are public health related. One is the seasonal flu, and then the other, of course, is coronavirus. But we're gonna start with the most important one, the one that poses the largest threat to us, and that's seasonal flu. But before I really get started.
Hold on just one second. Okay.
I can talk.
I'm sorry.
There's plenty of room. We got seats up front
I'm
there.
sorry. If we could hold our conversations outside, please, so we can hear other people speak. Thank you. So sorry. Sorry, Judy.
I know you're fine. Thank
Okay.
you all.
Yeah.
And before I really get started, I do want to introduce our public health nurse and clinic supervisor, Leah Aubrey. And then we also have with us one of our students. She's already a nurse working on her APRN, Advanced Practice Registered Nurse, and that's Tanisha.
Welcome.
And so when we talk about the flu, the first thing to do is to keep in mind those that are at high risk for complications from the flu. And so that's going to be any of our adults 65 and over, any of our young children, especially under the age of 5, anyone living with chronic diseases, any pregnant women, anyone living in a nursing home, healthcare workers, any contacts of any of these people that are at high risk, and especially any caregivers of children less than 6 months of age. They're the only ones that can't get the flu shot. So anyone over 6 months of age should get their flu shot. And just keep in mind that it's not always about protecting yourself, that it's about protecting those that you love that are around you every day. So we're gonna start with what the situation looks like in the entire US right now with seasonal flu. And all of this data, the most current available is February 8th, 2020. New data will come out today. It always comes out on Fridays. I checked my email though, and it's not there yet this morning. It's been increasing for about the past month. We have 26 million flu cases. That is not a typo, that is million. There have already been 250,000 hospitalizations related to the flu, and you can see the totals from last year up there. And flu season doesn't really end until May, and so we've still got quite a ways to go here. 14,000 deaths across the United States, and 92 of those were under the age of 18. Remember, they're at very high risk. And then I don't think anyone needs a reminder of the symptoms of the flu, but they're up there for you. If anyone's ever had it, you know it makes you feel absolutely awful. So this graph here, oh
Can I
please.
ask you a
Yeah.
question? Of those 26 million or even the 14,000, or how many of them actually had a flu shot? Do you know?
I do not have that data. I'm
That-
sorry, that's
that's
not
something
available.
We need to know.
And if I had it, I would totally share it with you, but it's just the CDC is not able to track that. And so this graph shows you the flu progression in the United States over the last 10 years. So the current year, 2019-2020 season, is the red line. So you can see that we're up there as high as we've ever been in case numbers. And you can see that a lot of years have these two spikes in them. And so that's where we are right now, is in the second spike. And we hope to see that decline, hopefully maybe even today, fingers crossed, and to stay down. Last year was a mild season as far as case numbers. Last year is the dark blue line, so the case numbers weren't as high, but there were a lot of hospitalizations last year, because you can see last year the flu season really did last on until May. You can see that blue curve is wider than the rest of them are there. So we hope that that doesn't happen again this year. We just want to see the decline straight down. And I would also point out here that with this second spike that we're seeing more type A flu cases than type B. And so that includes the H1N1 virus that is covered in your flu vaccine. So this is what it looks like around the United States. Kentucky is certainly not alone in being high flu activity. Very few states are not at the high activity levels. And then we get to Kentucky, and I would definitely thank the State Journal. The numbers they reported 4 days ago are still the most current. They always do a great job of keeping public health and flu in our headlines. So in our state, we've seen, similar to the nation, increases over about the past 3 weeks. We've already had almost as many cases this year as we did in the entire last flu season. And we've already had 50 deaths in our state, 4 of those being pediatric. And then this is our epi curve to show you in the state that second spike that's happening now in that last week where we're going up. This is across the state. I know this is hard to read, but we're red there as Franklin County with 317 cases. We are higher than all of the counties immediately surrounding us, but you know, legislation is in session, so a lot of germs can be brought with that.
Easy.
All right for the political.
You mean there's a lot of bad stuff going around?
Well, yeah, really, realistically, it is a lot of extra people coming into our county that don't normally live here. So when we look just at our county, again, we've got the 317 cases as of now. We only had 228 last season, so this is a bad flu season. When you look at our region, our epi-region is what we call it, that includes these 7 other counties, we've had 1 flu outbreak that was ours here in Franklin County at a long-term care facility. That's typical this time of year. Remember, those patients are at high risk. And we've had 3 deaths in our region. We're very fortunate those were not here in Franklin County, but our hearts definitely go out to those families. And so when you look at our case numbers for our county weekly, you see that last week we did have that sharp increase with 43 cases from only 27 the week before. But the most important thing to talk about is prevention. And so the CDC really does say the very best way to prevent the flu, like Squire Moore brought up, is to get your flu shot. We could have a whole presentation, an hour long, on the myths to do with flu shots, but we'll save that for some other time. There are 2 different types of flu shots that we offer at Franklin County Health Department and are widely available in the community. The first is the quadrivalent flu shot. It covers 4 strains of the influenza virus, 2A and 2B. One of the A's is the H1N1. And then, of course, the high-dose vaccine for those 65 and older that's designed to just create a stronger immune response to protect those that are at higher risk. Again, over 6 months of age, you should get your flu shot, even if you're allergic to eggs. You just stay in the doctor's office for about 15 minutes after you get it. Again, our information's up there. We still have plenty of flu shots available. It is not too late to get it. It does take 2 weeks to build your immunity, though. So I just want to brag for a moment and commend our school systems for working with us to have us come in and do flu shots every year. You can see we've done over 1,300 in our school children. And then we also work with a lot of work sites, over about 30 of them here in Frankfurt, where we go in and provide shots to their employees. And so the next best thing we can do prevention-wise is wash your hands. And it really is a superpower. This can really protect you from a lot of viruses and illnesses. And here's how you do it. You can't just stick your hands under the water and say you're done. You really need to lather well and scrub for at least 20 seconds, singing that happy birthday tune, not once but twice. And then you can see on the right side when to wash your hands. And if we really look at this list, we're probably all guilty of some time of blowing our nose and not washing our hands, or feeding our pets and not washing our hands. But this time of year, we need to be very cognizant of that. So prevention continued. Definitely cover your coughs and sneezes with a tissue, or use that elbow pit and not your hand, but then still wash your hands afterwards. Try not to touch your face when you put your fingers in your eyes or your mouth. That can spread germs and illnesses. Definitely stay home if you're sick. If you've got that fever, we don't want you out at school or the workplaces. And if you know someone that's sick in your house, try to go ahead and quarantine them a little bit to their bedrooms. And obviously, if you practice good health habits, eat well, get plenty of exercise, plenty of sleep, you'll be stronger and better able to fight off viruses. So any questions about just the seasonal influenza before we go on to the novel or new coronavirus?
Okay.
All right, well, I'll just go right on. So I do need to thank Dr. Douglas Thurman. He is a CDC CFO, that is a career epidemiological field officer, but he is housed at the Kentucky Department for Public Health, so he is our state epidemiologist right now, and he provided these next slides. And so this is just a little bit about how the outbreak began. I think we've all seen this in the news. It barely became the 2019 novel coronavirus since it was December 31st. And then it started to spread. And the United States acted very quickly. You can see the first case we saw was January 22nd. And then the federal government immediately did a presidential proclamation and put travel restrictions in place beginning February 2nd. And those travel restrictions are to protect our country from having this outbreak. This is a map of the locations in the world. I don't know why it's not showing up very well. The rest of the world really is there on my slide, and I can see it on Andy's computer screen over there. But those are the locations that have seen cases of coronavirus that have actually been confirmed. The CDC is concerned with American cases that they can actually confirm. So they are not tracking global numbers, but the World Health Organization is. So these are the most current numbers as of last night. Over 75,000 cases. You can see, vast majority of these cases are still in China. And the CDC is saying that the risk level in the United States is low and remains low. We cannot emphasize that enough for the United States. Some of the initial research is coming up with quotes like this. It's looking more like a really bad influenza than it is a SARS-like disease, and that's very hopeful that it's not as infectious as a disease like SARS and not as deadly as a disease like SARS, although this is still a very serious situation and is deadly. The symptoms range greatly from very mild, possibly even asymptomatic. We don't really know that yet, whether or not someone can have this virus and not have symptoms. If that is possible, then most likely they're not the ones that are really spreading the virus, because their viral load would be so low that they're not really, when they cough, not very many droplets are coming out. And then obviously the symptoms don't help us much because they're very similar to flu symptoms, and this is the flu season. So the main thing, again, we're looking for is travel to China in the last 14 days is all the CDC is concerned with. The U.S. is taking a very vigorous response. CDC press releases are even using quote-unquote unprecedented travel restrictions, but that the CDC is applauding those efforts to protect our country from this. And it's very important that China and the CDC are putting out the genetic sequence for researchers to begin mapping and to make that vaccine. That research is already underway. They're also testing antivirals to see if the virus will respond to those and help people to recover faster. And these are the travel restrictions that are in place. Of course, these are not, ones that are being preached to public health. This is information that's really being taught to Border Patrol and TSA agents, but they are doing a very good job of screening all of those passengers that are coming back into the United States. You can see that they're not being able to complete their travel itineraries, that they are being mandatory quarantine for 14 days to make sure they're cleared before they're allowed to mingle in the public. And all travelers returning from China are being given these cards, or travelers going into China are being given these cards and instructed to take their temperatures every day. And I know what we're most concerned with is the United States situation. I think that we all know it began in Washington State, is where we saw that first case. As of just a couple days ago, and again, this will be updated today also, there have been 15 confirmed cases in the United States. Again, most important thing to notice here is that all 15 cases had direct travel to China or were very close contacts. One was a spouse of a woman that returned from China that then ended up with coronavirus also. So it's that very close contact where we're seeing person-to-person transmission. And then obviously these are the states that have the confirmed cases. The most recent was in Texas, and it was a gentleman that was in quarantine at the military base there, so that's how it's supposed to work. That we keep them there, we find the cases before they're able to spread it amongst the rest of the United States. It is important to point out here, though, that these cases you see are actually people under investigation. Kentucky has actually monitored up to 112 low-risk travelers that had no symptoms. They did not come from that region of China. One funny story that we heard from the State Department for Public Health was that the Louisville Zoo gave us a call and said that there was an exhibit that had been brought over from China along with about 30 of their zookeepers from China, and so they were concerned. And so the State Department for Public Health got those zookeepers under investigation. They were monitored for 14 days. They're now in the clear. Again, very low risk travelers. So with that, it is novel, it's new, that's about all we know at this time. Of course, there is a lot more specific information for healthcare workers concerning personal protective equipment and testing requirements that can only be done by the state lab through the CDC. But remember, the main concern is the 26 million seasonal flu cases and to get your flu shot. But any questions?
Oh, no,
Go ahead.
First, just, could they change the name from persons under investigation? And I brought that up because if you saw the news this morning, and I rarely watch the news in the morning, so I don't know.
I did not, but Tamber told
What
me
was
about
messed up
it.
about it. And it's all over online and everything too. Their question was some riots and stuff that I saw on my news feeds and stuff in Ukraine. And that seems to be a less than fortunate name for folks who have a contagious disease, and it brings all kinds of stigma to that. So
Well,
that's
that's a
thought.
very good point, because persons under investigations don't necessarily have coronavirus. They just have some
No, but
symptoms
they've got
in the travel
felonies pending, they
history.
got misdemeanors, they got search warrants, and you just bring in a whole different mentality.
And I will run that up through the chain.
Just saying.
That's
And,
higher than me.
My second question was, what about travel restrictions from like South Korea and stuff because of the increases that I read about that as well?
The CDC is saying that there is a low travel risk for Hong Kong and South Korea. So the CDC is not recommending that you cancel travel to those locations, but there is the low risk. They're asking you to monitor yourself, take precautions, wash your hands if you go to those locations. But the only location the CDC is saying you must cancel your travel is anywhere in China, mainland or that province.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Judge.
Okay, Squire.
Thank you for all your work, Judy.
Oh,
and the
thank
health
you
department.
all.
Question, did I read that one slide right? Is there over 2,000 deaths in China? Is that- is that
Let
what
me
I
go
read
back
right?
a bit. Yes.
Well, that's what I was getting at. Yeah. I just want to make sure I saw that
Back
right.
to there you go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And and if you've been watching the news, China has changed the way that they're counting case numbers, and so these are loose. I mean, these
Yeah.
are definitely loose
We
case
know that.
numbers.
And then my second thing is, with the flu, and we deal with this at work, I would just ask, employers to be a little forgiving, because I hear a lot of times that their kids are sick, but they're not able to stay at home, so they send their child to school, and we see what happens then. So that's just one thing I'd like to point out to employers, that, might have to be
point.
a little bit more forgiving during the flu season.
Oh, I appreciate that. It'll end up costing everyone more.
Well,
You know,
yeah,
if the
yeah.
parent gets it and then spreads it around the workplace, then everybody's out.
Right. But thank you for everything.
No, thank you all.
Any other questions for Judy? Judy, thanks for coming and updating our community about what's
Anytime.
going on. Appreciate it.
We appreciate you. We couldn't do it without you all.
And thank all of you all. Thank your staff for being here too.
Of course.
Okay, yeah. Next item, update on tourism. Robin, welcome. Thank you for being here to give us an update on tourism.
Thank you all. Thank you, Squires. Thank you, Judge. Let's see, get this going. I think this might be a little less heavy in
Yeah.
time, so.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And I will report that as of today, we have not been seen or have reported to us any travelers from China, so I was
Okay.
gonna ask Judy to put some hand sanitizer up here, but that might be a good idea. So what I wanted to do this morning is just give you a summary of our 2019 tourism report and let you know what we've been doing and where we're at in terms of Franklin County the Tourist Commission. You probably recall that we moved our office in May of 2019 to St. Clair Street, just around the corner. We are very, very happy in that location. It's given us some opportunities that we didn't know we were missing at the old place, because we have really increased our connection to our local residents and citizens. People walk by, they stop in, they want to see what we're doing. So I really believe that we've been able to inform our citizens here on what tourism is all about and see what we're doing and come in anytime and be welcomed in our space. So we're happy to be there. In 2019, we had about 900 walk-in visitors, a number of different states and foreign countries. That's about average. When we were at the Gooch House, we saw in the neighborhood of 1,000, 1,100, 1,200 people per year. It's a statistic we keep just to kind of see trends and see, you know, who's coming and who's using our services on a walk-in basis. Of course, most of our visitors are from Kentucky and surrounding states, but we do get, in last year anyway, quite a number from some of the Florida, California, North Carolina, were some that are, you know, obviously further
Any
away.
from China lately?
I don't have any, I'll have to look back at my statistics, but that does not pop out to me. Although we do have, I know we have a number of folks from China that live and work in our community. But of course, we always maintain a mode of being welcoming, and that is what Kentucky wants to put out there. So we welcome anyone. Hopefully they don't have the flu, but doesn't matter where they're from. We did welcome a group of mayors. I think you all were involved last fall from the Ukraine, and they had a great time in our visitor center. We have not had a big problem in terms of parking issues. We are working with the city on parking. Of course, we had a lot at the Gooch House, which had 12 or 15 spaces. But really, it has not been a problem. And people come to a downtown area like ours. They're not adverse to walking around to the different restaurants and attractions and so on. So I would like to have a better parking scenario with a lot or some location we can direct visitors for a longer term free parking situation so that they can hop on the trolley and be seeing our attractions and visiting our shops and restaurants without having to worry about moving their car every 2 hours. So that's something we're working on. Just some attraction data from 2019. This is information reported to us. The top 10 attractions, of course, Buffalo Trace being number one with close to 300,000 visitors. And I don't think I brought it, but I just saw a news release this morning that Whiskey Magazine named Buffalo Trace as the number one visitor attraction of the year with about 300,000 visitors. So we
Wow.
can be very proud to have them in our county and our community. The state capitol always receives quite a number of visitors from all over the world. Salado, up there in the top 5, the History Center, Josephine Sculpture Park saw an increase of about 3,000 over 2018. So that was a good deal for them. The Grand Theater, I think, reported to you a month or so ago, their visitor numbers were up from counties outside of Franklin County. Kentucky River Tours and Canoe Kentucky reported about close to 15,000 visitors that use their services. I will mention that Kentucky River Tours is the group operating the Bourbon Boat. They began operation last April, and between April and October had about 3,000 visitors from all over the world. So they did a great job there. Castle and Key, that number's an estimate from 2018. They had some staff changes last fall. My guess is that they had a higher number, but it was not reported to me. So that's a 2018 number. But I'm sure that 13,000 was for less than a full year. So I'm sure their numbers exceeded that. Capital City Museum in Fort Hill at 9,000. The cemetery is another estimate. They don't really count, but they've given me that number the last couple of years. It could be higher. We've talked about maybe getting one of those strips of that cars drive over that does a count. We haven't done that yet, but that may be something we look at if we really want to get a good number there. Some of the other things that we worked on in 2019, we launched a new website. That's a picture of one of our images on the landing page. We did a complete revision of the site, launched it in April. Excuse me one second. It is a mobile-friendly site, which we never had before. So you can pull that up on your phone, visit frankfurt.com, as well as use it on your desktop. From April through the end of 2019, we had about 198,000 page views. One of the great things about migrating to a more modern platform is we're able to get statistics. We never had that kind of data before. So not only can we see the numbers of pages that are being looked at, but we can find out what those top pages are. And you can see there that the tours were one of the top pages, our events listings in our calendar. The stay page is accommodations, hotels, bed and breakfast, that sort of thing. And then the Kentucky Distilled Experience is a page where we sort of collectively put anything that is a bourbon-related experience. That would include, of course, the distilleries, things like Kentucky Gentleman's Cigar, Kentucky Nose, that sort of thing. Geographically, those people that looked at those pages, the top one every single month last year was Nashville. What we can do with that is drive our marketing. We've not typically done a lot to the south, but we're going to start. So Nashville, Atlanta, of course Louisville and Lexington are always in there. Columbus, Chicago, and Cincinnati rather, have been historically markets that bring visitors to Frankfurt. But we will focus on the south, the Nashville area in particular, in the coming year. We got an award from the Kentucky Travel Industry Association for the website at their annual conference in November, so we were proud of that. So we're pleased with our website, and we're constantly working on enhancing it, adding to it, using it for various marketing campaigns and things like that. Social media is another active area that we work on. We have a Facebook page, Instagram, and Twitter. We post things 2 or 3 times a week. We share things from our attractions, our restaurants, our shops daily if there's something posted. So we're constantly trying to promote Frankfurt and put the word out there to those audiences. Bourbon tourism is one of our key focus areas and has been for the last couple of years. Last year, we entered into a partnership with Bardstown and Covington to launch a marketing campaign called Come Find Bourbon. With that, we developed it's called a microsite. It's a website that will link to each of the 3 community websites. We are further developing that campaign this year, but tying in with Covington and Bardstown is giving us an opportunity to draw people from the northern Kentucky area toward Frankfort and on to Bardstown, giving them multi-day experiences and therefore spending more money, hopefully, in each of those communities. We also, for the first time, put a 2-page advertorial in the official guide to Bourbon Country. This is the product here. This has been put out every year for the last decade or so, and we have not had a presence. So we were able to place information about Frankfort and our attractions in there. And that's widely distributed throughout the state and mailed throughout the country as well. We have a rack card we call the Distilled Experience rack card. We distribute that through a service called AdRack, largely in Kentucky and Ohio. That's what we're talking about, shifting to the Nashville area. AdRack provides those rack cards and reloads them into hotels and visitor centers and welcome areas and things like that. So it's a great service for marketing the community in a way where travelers stop and pick up, a flyer on something and that sort of thing. Of course, we always promote our bourbon-centric events on our website and in print and our social media posts. The Distilled Experience Weekend is in April. It draws a few hundred people. The anchor for that is the Bourbon and Browns event at Liberty Hall. The Salado Sampler out at the Wildlife Education Center draws about 700 people. And of course, you have heard Bourbon on the Banks brought 1,300 people, and it'll happen again this year. Bourbonanza, I believe, is being incorporated into Bourbon on the Banks. So that may make that grow even further, we hope. River tourism, we had a good year in 2019 on the river with our tour companies that operate on the river. We have 4 companies now, or organizations, Canoe Kentucky, Kentucky River Tours, Rock and Thunder, and the KSU Thoroughbred. On the KSU Thoroughbred, you can see the 3,558 people this year. That's over 1,900 they had in 2018, and they had an additional 50 cruises. So the river performed for us better than it did in 2018, which, if you remember, was one of the wettest years ever on record, right, Tommy?
What I hear.
Yeah, right. And again, Kentucky River Tours, in their first year of operation, in those 6 months of operation, had about 3,000 people that they took on river tours in Frankfort. The lock numbers there at the bottom show the differences in the number of people and boats and lockages over the last 3 years. Again, you can see 2018 sticking out a little bit in terms of a low number, but 2018 being a good year. Lock 4 and Lock 1, which are there's 4 locks that are open on the Kentucky River. Lock 1 being near the Ohio at the mouth. Lock 1 and Lock 4 receive the most number of lockages and the highest use because they're, of course, located near Frankfort and also near the Ohio River.
Robin,
Yes,
on
sir.
those rack cards, were you gonna start distributing those in Tennessee?
Yes, that's it. Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't point out that. Yeah, we have another rack card that focuses on boat tours in Frankfort. We distribute those at the Louisville Boat Show, and we will change our distribution to the Tennessee area as well, yes. A couple other focus areas of ours, of course, our history, the arts, and our events, local events, and so on. I put a little flyer on your table there, the historic Frankfurt walking tour. We updated this in 2019. We have a rack on the outside of our building, and we did at the Gooch House as well. Interestingly, this is the #1 rack card that we go through. We go through more of these a year than anything else. People wander around, they want to see what was in the buildings in the past or what's in there now, and just a very popular thing. As far as the arts go, there's been the installations downtown and along the river. The Frankfurt Public Art Tour was developed about 10 years ago. That's got its own website, and it's also a cell phone tour. We are now in the process of upgrading that and incorporating it into visitfrankfurt.com so that there's one place to go to get information on all of our attractions, the arts being one of them. And we will also integrate the new sculptures and murals and things. Yeah.
That is a really cool landmark sign. Who made that?
That was a collaborative effort. It largely came out of the Bourbon Strategies Committee. It was really the brainchild of Jason DeLam, who's just a local resident here.
Do you know who made it?
It was well, you do, don't you?
That's what he's getting at.
I know.
Just wanting you to say
It just clicked in there. Sorry.
How many times can he ask?
Yeah.
Did you make it?
I didn't make it, no. Frank County Career Technical Center welding program.
Okay.
Jason came and worked closely with them.
Yes,
It's
and they
pretty
did,
cool.
and you all did a great job, and we're very happy to have it. And the fact that it is right across the street from Hoggies, we're two kind of selfie spots, you know, it's a good thing. So we're putting that out there as a kind of a starting point for people interested in bourbon tours or any other tours really. So, but thank you for that effort, and it's a great feature to have there. This is a little hard to read, but some of the destination marketing things we do. Our visitor guide, we print about 50,000 visitor guides and distribute those throughout Kentucky, all over the country and US and so on. When groups come to town, whether it's a meeting or a reunion or some weddings, motor coach groups, we put together welcome bags, and some of the little goodies on your table there are some of the things we put in those welcome bags to just marketing material and get. So they remember they were in Frankfurt. Our print advertising includes rack cards, the Guide to Bourbon Country, the official Kentucky Visitor Guide, a number of different print publications, most of which all have a digital component as well. And also some of those generate leads. So we can put an ad in a magazine and somebody can fill out a little card. I'm sure you've seen them in various magazines. And then those leads are collected by the media outlet and sent to us, and when we can provide further information and details, and we can track those leads, who they are, where they came from, and that can help drive our marketing as well. Last year, we began doing quite a bit more digital advertising, buying digital ads on Google and other sites, so that if somebody's searching for bourbon, or somebody searching for bourbon in Kentucky or bourbon tours or something, Frankfurt can pop up toward the top of those searches. I talked a little bit earlier about social media. Another thing we do is our group travel shows. We went to a group show in Franklin, Kentucky, Boomers in Groups, which is marketing the boomer age group, and then Travel South is a annual trade show that many people in the tourism industry in Kentucky go to. That'll be held, last year it was in, I'm sorry, I can't remember where it was. This year it's in Baton Rouge. But those shows are where we can get appointments with motor coach and other group tour leaders and talk to them about what's new in Frankfurt, why they should come to Frankfurt, how they can use Frankfurt as a base to go to many other locations in Kentucky, because we're so close to everything and we have a better price point than some of the bigger cities. So I'd also like to mention one other thing. on destination marketing, which is pretty fundamental. But the signage program, we just completed an update to the brown signs in Franklin County that was triggered by the demolition of the convention center, the ability to get new signage on I-64, and the mandate from the state to update the signs on our secondary roads. That project was just completed for those existing signs that were really, really in bad shape. So hopefully you've noticed them. We are now going to launch into a phase 2. West 6 wants some signs. I want to look at signage when you get at the bottom of the exits off I-64. They need a little bit of work. Josephine Sculpture Park needs a new sign, so there's some things like that we'll be addressing this year. The city did that installation, and we're grateful for that. They installed for Castle and Key, Lakeside Arena, and Glens Creek Distillery, which was a good thing. Our group market, this just shows some data about our motor coach groups. We were a little down from 2018 in the motor coach group and meeting arena. That is cyclical by its nature. And also, you know, we have, of course, KSU, the History Center, and the Capitol Plaza Hotel that can serve for meetings and conferences, but have limitations in terms of space and that sort of thing. Sporting events, some major sporting events, this probably isn't all of them, but this is a number that brought people from outside of the area. And I would like to mention that KSU is a major contributor to our economy. When they bring folks in for homecoming, it uses every hotel room for 2 or 3 nights. So that's a big deal for us. The wedding and reunion market, particularly the wedding market, is growing, and we're focusing on that a little more this year with destination weddings at distilleries, horse farms, things like that. It's big business. There's a lot of weddings, and we've got, of course, the Elizabeth down the road here is another venue, and the Foundry. So those are good for us. Quick summary of our accommodations. We've got 9 hotels, 6 are in the city, 3 in the county, 864 rooms, 1 B&B. We've got 43 short-term rentals. That there is some fluctuation in those numbers on the 43 because sometimes they're not always on the market, but generally that's a good number. And we subscribe to a research company that monitors hotel occupancy, and our general trend over a 12-month period is about 56%. We'd like to see that grow, and we work on that, but that's what it is right now.
Robin, do we see an influx of hotel stays during the legislative session?
I don't have that data yet. My guess would be yes. Typically there is, I think a lot of those folks that are legislators probably have maybe homes here and things like that, so they may not hit the hotel market, but some of the people coming in for various meetings and committee groups and things like that, yes. Just to wrap up, these are some examples of some of the digital ads that we run. Typically there's a picture with a call to action, and they can click on that, and then that drives them to our website where they can get more information. That's all I have. If you've got
Okay.
any questions,
Any questions for Robin? Okay, go ahead, Squire.
You mentioned that you had like 900 plus walk-in visitors.
Yes, sir.
over here. Do you have any idea what type of age, average age? Is there an age way to identify that?
We have not collected that kind of data. I would say it's, typically all over the map. I do know from research that the Kentucky Department of Tourism provides us that their markets are, and have been for the last couple of years, the markets are the boomer age group and then families. That they see those two groups being the predominant folks that would narrow in on a trip to Kentucky, so. But I haven't monitored it and I would say it's all over. We get a lot of kids. Hoggies brings us a lot of kids, come and eat their ice cream and come wash their hands afterward.
Yeah, I think Hoggies is probably one of the best ideas to downtown Frankfurt.
Hoggies is awesome, yeah.
In regards to your bourbon partnership, does Buffalo Trace have a seat at the table? Obviously, they're out in front in regards to tourists coming to Frankfurt.
Right. We've been talking with them about that they were not part of that partnership per se. Of course, their content, their attractions and tours and all that drive that for us. But they're not part of the financial commitment, if that's what you're saying.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Squire.
Thank you for tourism and everything. I was just curious, what are your goals for 2020?
Our goals for 2020 are to continue putting a bigger effort in our digital ads, to continue to work on the enhancement and development of Come Find Bourbon, to keep riding that wave, because that's what it is. It's a tidal wave. And we really want to get the public art integrated into our website, and the new features on our website so that we can promote them better than we have in the past. And then the signage. I think signage it's simple, but it's really important.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
We hope 2020 is even better than 2019. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your work with tourism. Okay, this time, Farmdale Sanitation District audit for the year ending June 30th, 18 and 19. Mr. Harrod, are you here? Mr. Alsop, do you want to say anything? First, you want to introduce Mr. Harrod? However you want to do it. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you, Judge. Our auditor is present to do a little recap on the audit, and I think you all have copies in your package. So I'll turn it over to David Harrod. Okay.
Welcome, David.
Thank you. Enough that boring tourism stuff. Now we're going to talk sewage. I am here to present the auditor's report that we did for the fiscal year end for Farmdale Sanitation District for June 30th of 2019. Give me just a second here to get my glasses on. The first couple of pages are just the contents. If you'll turn over to page 3, you'll see the beginning of the independent auditor's report. This audit was done on the Yellow Book standards because Farmdale serves at the pleasure of the fiscal court. Their existence is because of fiscal court. Therefore, they are a quasi-governmental unit, and therefore the audit does fall under the governmental Yellow Book standards. It is a business type activity, since the only activity they do is the operation of the sanitation district out there. If you'll turn to page 4, you'll see our opinion. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the business type activities of Farmdale Sanitation District as of 6/30/19 and 18, and their respective changes in its net position and cash flows for the year ended in accordance with the accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. What that is your basic governmental clean opinion. I thought if you would turn over to page 5, since it is governmental, it does have an extensive management discussion and analysis. I wanted to read just a couple of paragraphs here that I think give a good summary of the history of it and where it's at today. Starting with the second paragraph, the district was established in February of 2004 under KRS 67715, which authorized the county judge executive with the approval of fiscal court to create and establish any special district for the establishment of necessary governmental services, albeit the sanitation district. The district's main function is to provide for the collection and disposal of sewage and other liquid waste so as to prevent and correct the pollution of streams and provide for the general public health, safety, and welfare. Farmdale Sanitation District was created to consolidate and manage the sewage disposal, which in the past had been processed by various independent companies. Beginning in May of 2017, the district began acquiring for $1 the various sewage treatment plants located within the district's service area. From May of 17 through May of 18, the district took possession of Evergreen Sewage Disposal, Ridgely, Farmdale Development, Coolbrook Utilities, and the Huntington Woods Neighborhood Association, which was also operating, inside of their association, was operating their sewage plant out there at Huntington Woods. So that gives you a brief synopsis of the history and where it's at. If you'll turn over to page, I believe it's 13. Yeah, on page 13 is the actual beginning of the financial statements. You'll see the statement of net position, which is the balance sheet for June 30th, 2019. Total current assets at $209,000, which was split almost equally between cash that they had in operations as well as the accounts receivable. The accounts receivable represent the fees for the operation of the sewage plants. Farmdale Water, they had Farmdale Sanitation. Farmdale Water has a contract basically where Farmdale Water collects bills and collects these fees, these sanitation fees. They are billed 1 month, they are collected the next month, and then remitted in the third month. So what you're seeing on there is approximately 3 months worth of receivables. At June 30th, you would have April, May, and June in the receipt mode, and then April would be received in July, so forth and so on like that. The fixed assets that you see on there, the Coolbrook and Farmdale area, when they were acquired, there was some infrastructure there, and that was transferred over into the books of the sanitation district, Farmdale Sanitation. The two big items you see on there are the purchase of some land, and the work in process that you see on there, those are mostly the developmental fees and stuff, since it's still in the work in process stage. Total assets at the end of the period, at the end of June 30th, was $1,077,000. Over on the next page, on page 14, you'll see the corresponding liabilities, which are general accounts payable at the top, short-term portion of long-term debt. The Kentucky Infrastructure Authority loan that you see on there for $290,000, you'll see a loan forgiveness there of $275,000. It's kind of a unique loan for them from the standpoint that for whatever is loaned to the district from KIA, 95% of that is forgiven. It's very similar to a grant situation, but it does operate as a loan, so it is classified as such. And then, of course, there's the $30,000 loan Fiscal Court has advanced to the district, which is a non-interest bearing and is due back in about 2 more years. I think it's June of 22, something like that. Gives the total liabilities $87,000. So the net position or the fund balance over at the district is $990,000, of which is $823 is invested in the capital assets, which is basically the book value on the front there of the assets less any related debt, which would be the $87,000. Over on page 15 is the beginning of the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in that position, which you would consider the income statement. You'll see on there approximately $400,000 worth of sewer fees, the loan forgiveness from the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority, which I spoke of just a second ago, are the two biggest items on there. They do have some smaller grants and other incomes. You'll see on here from the expenses, the monthly operations, and the repairs and maintenance are the two biggest ones, and obviously those are the ones that make the thing function. The operations include the water testing, maintenance of the equipment, maintenance of the lines, that kind of thing. So also the sludge carry off and that kind of thing. So the change in position, there was $670,000 worth of revenue. Expenses were $346,000. So the change in position is actually the net income of the district, which was $324,000, taking its net position from $665 to $990. And trying to come up with anything else that you may be interested in, I've already spoke to the accounts receivable. The tax status is it's local government, so therefore there is no tax issues. I've already talked about the infrastructure loans. Again, this audit does follow the Yellow Book standards. We have the new pronouncements back here that in note 10 begin on 25. There are 3 new pronouncements coming. Actually, I think the only one that's going to affect beginning next year the district will be ASU 2018-8, and that's a clarification in scope of the county guidance for contributions, which is going to be a very small change for should there be actual contributions given to the district. That right now they don't have any. That's the only one I really see that could actually affect the district. So With that said, I'll entertain any questions you might have.
Any questions? Any questions?
I have one. Thank
Sure.
you for presenting this. Somewhere, and I can't find it right this second, it says board members' expenses. Could you explain what that entails?
Was it on the income statement?
Yeah, maybe.
Alan, do you want to explain that?
I was just curious what that,
Don't you have an amendment coming up about board members' expenses?
That's in the budget, not,
oh, maybe, okay, maybe it wasn't.
not in the audit.
Okay, maybe it wasn't. in
Yeah,
the
because
audit. Okay.
okay.
I saw it somewhere
Yeah.
in this material.
There you go.
You saw it in the,
Okay.
If there are no, do you have a question, Scott?
It talks about volunteers. You all have volunteers at the,
Was it, I don't recall this particular year. We did have some donated time, $8,250 worth of donated time. I can't really remember the instance on that because it fell below our materiality, but do you remember the, let me see if I can find that, just a
I
second.
don't remember what that was even related to.
Robert, do you have?
The district
recall that?
receives donated services which are not specialized skills, which do not create or enhance non-financial asset. The fair value, it was provided by prior management. I can't, however, one individual does perform specialized work by entering all data into its accounting system and reconciling the bank accounts. The district estimates this person is approximately 15% of her $55,000 annual salary performing this service. The value, that's where the $8,250 came from. That was on the internal bookkeeping, and I can't remember who that was.
That was probably the
From the
district's
water district?
treasurer.
Or water.
Some staff do some data entry.
To do for the district itself, and there was no charge for that, so that would be the volunteer time.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Squire?
yeah, it does. And then it says that you all are into an agreement with the professional wastewater services to handle day-to-day operations.
Pace.
of the- are they on site during the day? Are they? Or
I think
is-
they're there pretty much every day, aren't they?
Robert can attest to that. Robert, what is PACE? What is PACE service? What does that do?
Well, that's the
They monitor
operator for both the collection system and the treatment plants. And then they subcontract any special contractors in the event of emergency breaks and things of that nature, so.
As I understand it too, they also do the water quality testing, test for
Well,
leaks.
Pace Analytical is the laboratory that does
Yes.
the water testing, so there's two different companies that the district contracts with.
Any other questions? Hearing no questions, thank you, Mr. Harris. Alan, I'm just gonna bring you up right now, since you're also on the agenda on item 7. I'll just bring you up now to talk about district budget amendment, or your district budget amendment for 2019 and 20.
I think you have a copy in front of you, so if not, it's on the screen. The main thing that I would point out is that I had, when we first started taking these plants over, or when the Public Service Commission handed them to us, every single plant had a different fee. They range from, I'm talking about now user fees, they range from, I think maybe $32, $50, up to $40 a month. But none of them were the same, which made no sense to me. Why? Because, you know, they were all for the same purpose. So I tried and tried to work out something. We finally did with the water district to base the fees on water usage. So that is what's happening now. So in that case, some bills went up, some bills went down. It just depends on how much water you use. So, in my opinion, that was the only fair way to handle it, rather than have next door neighbors, in some instances, paying different fees for different things. So now at least they're all on the same, on the same payment schedule. So, but that's the one thing I'll point out. Any questions?
I have a question, not on this, and it may go to Robert, and maybe neither one of you know. What's being done out there on Wooded Way? They still have a problem there.
Talking about the surcharge from the manhole?
Yeah, the overflow from the main, I guess.
Yeah. So the second control panel and second pump have been installed. The reason that it's surcharging is the amount of inflow and infiltration into the collection system during heavy rain events. We have design plans currently submitted, the district has design plans currently submitted to the Division of Water.
That's good save.
For the rehabilitation project. So that would be lining of manholes, point repairs on the mains, lining of mains, and then some new lateral clean outs and some lateral replacements. That should dramatically reduce the amount of inflow during those events, which should minimize the frequency of the overflows on the Wooded Way manhole. So that's the problem. It's like a sieve
Is
right
there a
now.
timeline?
Many of those
We
manholes,
hope to have it out to bid the district hopes to have it out to bid this spring. All the lines have been cambered, they've been assessed. I've met with HMB engineers and done the priority rankings. So once the Division of Water blesses it, then we'll get it out to bid and should be a summer construction.
so.
Mr. Swiggert's in the back, and he's, bless his heart, he's had to go through a lot. So, I'm sure he's, glad you asked that question. You wanna say something, Mr. Swigert? I'd be more than happy.
I'd like to thank the county road crew and the magistrates for coming out, straightening all that mess up. And still on some rainy days, you get 2 inches or something, that thing will burp up a little bit. But as soon as we call, that gentleman's there, and he's got it fixed, he's got it working again, and he's really good about helping. So, pretty much in our call stack right now, we're happy at the moment.
I
It's
understand.
not July yet.
I understand. We understand. Yes, sir.
But
We
I want to
understand.
thank everybody for the work they've done to try to, fix and correct the problem.
Thank you.
And we appreciate when the neighbors contact us.
Yeah.
Sometimes the breaker will kick out, the floats will get stuck, and so we can quickly get out there and correct that, and then it pulls the fluids through and eliminates the surcharge. So thank you for
Yeah,
reaching out to us.
and
We
the
always
gentleman
ask
has
you.
been really good. When I call, he said, as soon as I call, he's like, "What's up, Hank?" He's got my phone, So, but I appreciate y'all.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We appreciate you, too.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Uh-huh.
Appreciate that.
Okay. Any other questions, Squire?
Can you update us on if there is any conversations with the city? Where are you all at in regards to the city?
I
know
think
it's
Robert
been
might,
touched on.
Robert's been, you want update on the
You wanna
CASA?
I wish I
You
could.
want to speak for the district?
It's Robert.
Sure. So, I had a meeting 2 weeks ago with the Department of Frankfurt Sewer, their director. They have reviewed the district's draft operating agreement, and they have presented some draft language as well to their council, and then presented that information to the city commission on their January 24th meeting, I believe it was, for consideration, just to open that dialogue. It was discussed at that meeting that the district is in a bit of a hurry because of the deadline for the EPA grant, which expires on March 30th, but the city, in a majority, it appeared that they were agreeable to executing an agreement with the district to accept their flows. So the importance of this operating agreement is that it would allow the district to pursue what's known as a KISOP agreement or interoperational systems agreement with the city, and that is a permit issued by the Division of Water. That's important because the district needs to amend their EPA grant from the construction of a wastewater plant to a pump station, okay? So I think we're very close.
And a line running down 127.
Yes. So the document from the city has not been officially submitted back to the district yet because it's under review by Laura Ross at the city. But I have had the conversation in the meeting, and in my opinion, it's very close. So,
And-
moving forward.
And I know in the past I'd asked about the Strand report. Have you ever received a copy of that? Still haven't gotten a copy?
No, sir.
Have you all gotten a copy of that? Still haven't gotten a copy?
Robert, question, do you keep track of like how much time you spend on this project? Just curious. No. Okay. Now, Judge, if I could ask one more, just going back to the, you know, I understand the board member compensation, the expenses part of it, is that something kind of different than their wages, or what's covered under that? Expenses?
Well, the board up till this point in time has been purely voluntary.
Okay,
And it's gotten to the point anymore that, that we're all spending a lot of time. And ink cartridges, time, so the board decided some time ago, I guess it maybe it was a January meeting, that we needed to match up with the Farmdale Water District and with, so that's what the budget figure is.
Okay.
Nothing has been done about it yet, but that's what that's for.
okay, thank you.
By law, they were always permitted to pay a token compensation, but they'd never drawn it for themselves. So my understanding is they just decided to remedy that for all the work that they do. And Ann does, and Robert does, and the judge does to kind of prop them up. But those folks do a really amazing job. It's basically volunteers.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Alan, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew? A year in review. This is a brief overview of what's happened in 2019. Jeremy, you want to catch the lights?
God loves salary, man.
Seems like a long time ago you were. Thank you, Andrew. And we move on to 2020. Thank you, Jeremy. Let's get into our agenda items. Other agenda items, authorization approval of minutes from our meeting of January 27th. Any discussion on that?
I'm trying to figure out where we are, Judge. We've jumped around so much.
I understand. Stay with me. I hopefully gonna lead you through this.
All right.
The next item is authorization to approve minutes from a special meeting of February 10th, 2020. That's the joint city-county meeting. All right. We've already done item 4. The next item is authorization to receive the county clerk's quarterly report for 12 months ending December 31st, 2019. Mr. Hancock.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Or afternoon.
Morning still.
Evening.
Do you all, in your package, did you get the clarification of all the excess fees? I want to run down that sheet really quick with you, and the reason I want to run down it, I think I've explained it to you several times, but I've never given you a visual paperwork to follow up on where our excess fees come from. So if you look at the top left corner, that's the total. The 457's our total in excess fees for the year. If you drop down the election expenses and deed room expenses, or expenses that we cover on behalf of the fiscal court, the total up to the 533, if you go directly to the right, the 533,951 is our total. And then you subtract out our benefits, which I'd never given you all a total of what the benefits were, which gives us a grand net total to the fiscal court, 261,469. I don't think I ever really broke that down and given that to you, so I wanted to break it down. I wanted to show you exactly where the fees were coming from. And then I wanted to come back in on the next page and show you where all the money goes. If you'll flip over, there's a pie chart there. Out of the local dollars that we collect through the clerk's office, 35% of it goes directly to you all. When I say the Franklin County Treasurer, that's your all's money. If you'll look down, 40% goes directly to the Board of Education, the Franklin County Board of Education. Then you have 8% to the city treasurer, 2% to the city school board, and 15% to your other taxing districts. Our total distributed funds to the state, where a good portion of all the money we collect goes, is $9,414,771. I also wanted you to see that we do a large part of our collections go over to the state directly, and that goes in a weekly fee and a monthly fee. And then that's what leaves us with our excess fees. I just don't think I ever really gave you all a clear picture of what it looked like. So that's why I wanted to make sure that you all had a clear picture of every dollar that we bring in and where it goes to. Do you guys have any questions on that?
No questions. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, guys.
All right, cool. The next item is authorization to receive the former Sheriff Pat Melton's admitted fourth quarter financial report. Sheriff Quire, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Thank you for being here.
I made you all a copy of the Cliff Notes, so I'll just read this to you, and then I'll leave you with the copy, and if you have any questions, I'll try my best to answer them. Regarding the former Sheriff Pat Melton's 2018 taxes and fee audit by the Auditors of Public Accounts, Office of Mike Harmon, as we understand it, it's still in the process. On Tuesday, January 28th, 2020, 3 state auditors came back to the Sheriff's Office to continue their audit process after having received a copy of the former Sheriff Melton's 2018 quarter fees budget report prepared by Harrod and Associates. After approximately 1 week, the auditors were called out to engage in another audit. As of Thursday, February 20th, it's our understanding the auditors may possibly return next week to start back on the audit, but this is not yet confirmed. Some additional explanations. The 2018 fourth quarter fees budget report that was submitted by Harrod and Associates on behalf of former Sheriff Melton's is not a final settlement budget report. Since the issuance of the fourth quarter budget report, there have been some necessary expenses made that will affect the final settlement. The final settlement cannot be issued and presented to the Franklin County Fiscal Court until the completion of the state audit
for the 2018 fees and tax accounts. Due to the potential additional disbursements and/or any collections that may be issued within the auditor's documentation of the findings and recommendations report. Once this report has been issued and reviewed and any necessary requirements are met, the final settlement budget will be prepared, signed by the former sheriff, Pat Melton, then submitted to the auditor of public accounts, also to the Franklin County Fiscal Court. At that time, the final settlement to the Franklin County Court and any excess fees check will be given to the court. We expect this will probably be done by the former Sheriff Pat Melton. I've talked to him and he says he'll come down and present or turn over the excess fees once we do that. So I'll leave you all with a copy of this, but it's kind of where it's at. Once the audit's done, there will be some excess fees and we'll bring it in. But the reason I read this, because sometimes Fran and I, when we talk, I think I know what she said and I get down here and get it twisted and turned. So I want to give you accurate information and I'll leave you a copy of it so you'll have it.
Sheriff, let me ask you a question, because this is, it's an interesting dilemma, I guess. When one sheriff goes out and the other one comes in, does former Sheriff Melton have access to this special account that these monies are in?
No, sir. What happened was, we learned quickly how to handle it. We put it in a special account, and what we do is if we disperse any money, we attach a letter to it, and I'll meet the former sheriff out, and he'll sign the letter agreeing that we'll disperse that money. But our signature, Fran and I, sign the
yours.
checks,
Okay,
right?
okay.
We actually held the money, but we will not disperse any money without his knowledge and agreeing.
Okay.
Which we're working fine together. We've done a lot of work on this to get it right, and every once in a while something will pop up from the past. So we don't want to bring you an excess fee check of 50 grand or whatever it's going to be, then come back and say, well, we've got to figure out where to pull this money from.
Yeah.
So once auditors are done, we'll be done, but I anticipate around $50,000 will be left somewhere in the neighborhood. And as far as our fourth quarter and final settlement, we should be on the next agenda and be able to present you some excess fees there too, so.
Okay. Squire Muller?
Sheriff, thank you for everything. Question, so who's actually paying for the audit? Does that come out of fiscal court or does that come out of your budget? Because I noticed on the bills, it's like $7 grand.
Yeah,
or something like that.
fiscal court will pay for the audit. I know some years, depending on the amount of work they do, the bill goes up. Is that right, Susan?
Well, the bill that's in today's court bills is for the fourth quarter financial settlement. That is not the audit.
Okay.
The audit will probably be 3 or 4 times that amount.
And that's coming out
And that'll
of
be
where?
paid by fiscal court, and that bill probably won't come for another probably 8 months, I bet.
But those fees, those excess fees will actually be in a reimbursement, right, Susan?
Well, it's not a reimbursement, it's excess fees
but-
turned over.
Are those audits, expenses budgeted?
By fiscal court,
By the
By
budget
fiscal
presented by
court.
the
by
treasurer?
fiscal court, we have a line for audit expenses. The audit expenses have been extremely high and abnormally high for recovering the former sheriff.
Okay. Any
So
other
the
questions?
excess fees will help balance that out, thank goodness.
The excess fees will help replenish
Okay.
the funds.
That's what I,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I was saying. Okay, any other questions?
No, sir.
Go ahead, Squire.
Just while you're up there off topic, how is the evidence room? I know it was a big
They've
conversation.
been working on it for, I don't know, a couple weeks. Jeremy and some of the other staff putting in the air conditioning and heating system, so hopefully it'll be finished soon and we'll let you know how it's working, but.
It's done.
Is it done? There you go. I know I seen them up yesterday working on it again. so. I
know I
appreciate
drove
it.
by, I don't know, last week, and there was, looked like a unit or something sitting in the grass there. I didn't know if that was it or not.
That's it out front.
Sitting outside there.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Sheriff. We've already talked about item 7. Let's go to item 8. There's authorization to approve the appointment to Farmdale Sanitation District Board. And you've got that, and the replacement is for Joy Peach. Alan, you know, I know, all of us that have worked with and Ann and Robert that have worked with Joy over these years. She has been fantastic. And we certainly appreciate her hard work with this. She's got us where we need to be, and we wish her the best. She's got a lot of traveling to do and grandchildren to be with, and we understand her retirement from the board, but appreciate her hard work. Any other questions on that? The next item is the authorization to approve an appointment to the Peaks Mill Water District Board, and that is replacing Lee Troutwine, who has resigned from that board. And Lee is another one that has put in a lot of time, dedication, and a lot of hard work. It is another board that has been under intense scrutiny, to say the least. Squire, wouldn't you think? And
Easy peasy, right?
no easy. I don't know of easy peasy boards anymore, but anyway, we thank Lee for his dedication and service to the district. Yes, sir.
Just curious on both of these boards, did we have more than one applicant? I mean, are we getting
we
a better
did.
pool of people maybe? Is that fair to ask?
Well, so item number 7 on the sanitation district, each of the magistrates in that area presented a name.
Okay.
And item number 9, the magistrate in that area presented names, yes.
Perfect.
Okay?
Cool, thank you.
All right. The next item, Mr. Mitchell, authorization to approve a resolution adopting the execution of the county road aid co-op program.
Yeah, this is our usual yearly state money. Actually came a lot earlier this year than normal. It's usually a lot later. And it's, looks like about 26,000 more than last year's amount, so that's a good thing. And it's a 3-payment deal, and same thing every year. So it's a good, like I said, 26 and change higher this time, so we're in good shape.
That's
That
good,
helps.
because they're cutting it up on the other
Spend that
end.
extra 26,000?
No, I'll figure it out.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Okay, if there are not any questions on that, number 11, John, light equipment operator.
Yeah, I'm asking for approval for a new hire. Let a guy leave the first of the year. And,
Who retired, John?
Charles Bramer.
Charles Bramer. Good man. He had 27 in?
No, just 20.
Just 20?
Yeah, he stuck it out for 20, and then he moved on. So we've been through 2 months of going through this, and I think we finally found somebody that'll fit with our program very well. And, I'm recommending the individual you have there in front of you.
John, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
How is the pay scale working out? Because, I know that was a big thing when I came onto the court as far as getting everything figured out, and Squire Morris talked about it also. You feel pretty good about where we are with everything?
Yeah, it's gotten better. I was looking the other day, though. I mean,
There's gonna need to be some continued tweaking.
You're gonna have to
Right, yeah.
tweak again, because it's a possibility, given the timing that you hire this guy, and if you hire again 6 months later, it depends on your July
Budget
1
season.
compensation rate, as it goes up.
Okay.
It's still a
It's gonna
balance.
be an all-moving target, but it's better.
It's
Is
better.
that fair to say?
It's better, yes,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you.
John, you got another one. Promotion.
This is my promotion. This has been sitting on the shelf a little while. When Frank Sword retired, we wasn't ready to promote. We had to get ready, and now we're ready. This is a 19-year veteran employee here, and
You've had, this position has been open for a little while, right?
Yes.
You hadn't filled it?
Yep, it's been sitting on the shelf. I wasn't ready to do it, but now I'm ready, and we're gonna do it, and he'll make a good one.
Okay.
A real good one.
Okay. Okay, any questions for John on any of those 3 items? Okay, thank you,
I
John.
like the way he spells his name.
Yeah, I bet you did.
John, did you have many applicants come out for the light equipment operator?
Yeah, 13 or 14.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
All right, Charlie, we got some hires for seasonal golf and park employees.
Yes, thank you, Judge. Good morning, Court. It's that time of year. Hopefully, we transition into the spring season. And we've got to fill in some seasonal employees. We've got several returning that we would like to rehire. And you see there's 2 new hires. We held interviews for 2 new individuals for fill in some closing hours and weekend work at the golf shop. Myself, Ms. Harrod, Ms. Rednire had interviews for those 2 excuse me, individuals, and we would like to recommend to bring them on board and give them some training and give them a shot. We didn't have very many applications for these positions simply because, it's evenings and weekends. It's kind of a odd time. But the golf course is open daylight to dark 7 days a week, so it just happens to be that we had to fill those spots.
There is money in the budget. This was budgeted.
Yes, yes. This will be covered under our seasonal line items in both the park and the golf line items.
I'm sorry, just to make it clear, it's budgeted through June 30th, and then we'll go.
Yes. Yeah, just like every.
Well, with a caution though, I mean, we've spent, it's not always 50/50. So we've spent 69% of the seasonal budget already, so it's dependent upon how many hours you'll.
Absolutely. In the spring season, every year, annually, we have to really creep in and we can't just fire everybody up and work X amount of hours. If it's raining, we send them home. And then, if it's too cold or, it's we kind of gradually move into the season to where we really got these guys working their maximum hours, I guess. And we fill in a little bit early on, like we have in February, when it turns out to be 55 degrees. And we do that internally with full-time staff now.
Okay. Anything else for Charlie? All right, thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
Next item on agenda, Chief, we got a bid to get this fire truck fixed.
Yes, sir. We did bid opening on February 12th. 2020, we had 1 bidder, and it did meet all of our specifications, and we are recommending selecting this company to repair Tanker 5.
And that about right what the insurance amount was?
It's in and around it, yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Good deal.
Can I ask a question, Judge?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So curious, this is a 2013, that's a big amount of money to me, to put into it. Is there anything else that can be done while the truck's being worked on to extend the life of I'm not sure how you call the fire department, going like 10 years or 15 years that we've talked about in the past? Is there anything else?
ISO rating.
Thank you.
There is nothing that would extend that life at this time. It's not like we could do a refurb on it. I think you would be shorting yourself several years by doing a refurb, since they're only worth 15 years versus 20 years. We're still looking at that from that 2013 in-service date of 20 years for that pump service life.
Okay.
But a great question.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you explain what happened? Obviously, I'm not aware of what happened, so can you tell us how we got to here?
The accident?
Yeah, the accident.
Yes, sir. We were coming back from an alarm on the west side of town. And the tanker had stopped at Riley Road for a red light and was sitting there. And unfortunately, some circumstance caused this individual to just rear-end us at 45 miles an hour. So the firefighter
our driver actually saw it coming and at the last second let off the brakes a little bit, which could have lessened the injuries that were incurred.
Everyone okay?
My understanding, yes.
Did the guy hit him have insurance?
Yes, his brother did. So,
So the insurance that's paying for this is his, correct?
well, how does that work,
Or is it a ding against us?
Rick?
I don't know how they filed it. I don't
We're a
know.
no-fault state, correct?
Well, yeah, to a point, unless there is fault. I don't know how it was turned into KCO, and KCO's wrote us to check what they're
So they'll
gonna
try to
do
get
about
it
it.
back from-
Well, I don't wanna say, cause I don't know that for sure.
maybe.
But our primary funding is our insurance. There may be discussions between the other insurance, I don't know.
The last I heard, that's what they're doing, is they're pursuing their insurance.
Susan, we have received the initial payment for that insurance, correct? Yeah.
Okay, any questions? Good questions, Squire Tracy, thank you. Thanks, Chief. Okay, we'll get that fixed. Oh, by the way, how long is it gonna take to get it fixed, Chief?
The first estimate on the tank alone was 4 months.
Okay.
But I did speak with the tank company, and they indicated that they thought that time frame was longer. They could get it in quicker.
Oh, okay, okay, that's good. All right, Susan, item 15, 16, 17.
Thank you for that information, Chief, and we'll just follow up with that because that creates issues on a lot of different levels when you receive money before the expenditure or vice versa, when you have the expenditure and you haven't received the reimbursement. So we need to keep an eye on that for the fiscal year and the budget process because of the way we budget for cash. If we haven't paid that bill by June 30th, it needs to be a budgeted expense for the next year, and it would not have revenue. So it would require basically part of your reserves or prior year carry forward to cover that, because we have already received the insurance proceeds, if that makes sense. So that's one of the things we're doing with the amendment on the fire fund, is to recognize the receipt of the insurance proceeds on 2 accidents, in fact, and then we are supplying a expense line item for accident repairs for the same amount. So again, if that tanker timing of the repair doesn't occur, then we will have an excess budget, and under expenditure, we need to budget it again next year. Okay. The county clerk fund increase, we're going ahead and making an amendment for that as well, because there has been discussion about using the excess fees or preserving those excess fees for the county clerk's fund for maybe some special equipment for the future. So we will go ahead and amend those in. Again, amendments are new monies, and most of the time that you amend them in is because you anticipate spending it. Sometimes you have additional revenue and you might not make an amendment, but you might not need to spend it either. If you don't spend it, it still becomes a part of your bottom line, whether or not, so this is all a budgetary process. So because we have the clerk's fund and the sheriff's fund set up this year as a new year as separate accounts from the general fund, it even makes it, I think, a little more transparent about how the excess fees work, and we can keep those possibly with the clerk's fund, and we can, he's not in here, but we can see how that the clerk's activities definitely help supply the overall operations of the account. So that's the amendment.
Can I ask a quick question, Judge?
Yep.
That's Chief, what was his other accident? I don't know anything about the 2018 Chevy. What happened there?
A deer on Orangeton Road, my understanding is came out between 2 hills and right into the side of the front of the pickup truck.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Continue on, Miss Susan, thank you.
Okay. The next item is budget transfer, actually several budget transfers over several funds. The first one is in for the golf utilities. Charlie's here, he might be able to speak to that, but basically we had a drought and a period in order to preserve the golf course area, they used, a
Irrigation.
a lot of water, a lot of water. So there will not be enough money in the existing line item to cover through the end of the year. And Charlie's made an estimate of around $5,000 needed to get us through the end of the year from golf utilities, which may or may not be the case, we'll see. And he has also recommended that we can take that from the park improvements line item. The jailer or salary and training incentive, we had a change in our staffing there mid-year because of Mr. Rogers' retirement. So that's, the jailer salary has a little bit of excess funds, and then the training incentive, the timing of the payment of that actually results in us having two jailers receiving training incentive in one fiscal year. So we're supplying that line item with the money to cover that for budget purposes. And then in the fire department, we had this issue earlier in the year, but we're doing some clarification on and realignment on our budget lines to try to really identify those asset lines that have a lifespan of greater than 2 or 3 years, so that we can maybe have a better financial reporting and handle on the budgetary requirements for maybe replacement of those as we move forward. So the chief helped me, help clarify with me that 441 line item, that small tools and equipment, it's been labeled several things over the years, small tools and equipments, but it's always had a provision for the some replacements and big equipment types of failures. So it's always had money within that budget, but it wasn't really labeled correctly. So with his help, we've identified about $29,000 of the remaining of that 441 line item to switch it over and relabel it basically as a 739, which is a capital outlay minor code, so that in future years when we do these comparisons, we can more readily find those, the big ticket items, if that makes sense, hopefully. Questions on that?
The water that we use, that's on agriculture meter, right?
Yes, sir.
Do we not pump out of that lake at all?
You should. Isn't it set up for it?
It is, and it was in bad shape, and it's not very deep. And when we used it initially, when we took it over, we would really pretty much drain it, as did the leasees that when we used to not run it and we leased it out. Those individuals would have to turn on a fire hydrant up at the high school and let it run down the hill and fill it back up.
And now we've got a splash park that should be filling it back up.
Yeah. We run the pipe the other direction.
Yeah. That was my idea from the get-go.
Yeah, but
A long way to go.
division of water's not ideal, so that's another story.
Do you have rain sensors and everything on the irrigation? Wind sensors, rain sensors, all that?
No, not rain sensors, but we do have remote control where we don't have, he can run around and program it accordingly. He stays on top of it pretty good.
Okay, Miss Susan, let's do the treasurer's report.
Just a reminder, I always send out a financial report weekly packet. Of course, that packet comes out before our court date, and business continues minute by minute around here, so that the numbers have changed somewhat. But I did provide you with a statement of cash and or revenue and expenditures. A couple of things I'll just point out in this court packet. There is the check to the city for the 06 shared tax agreement. We make an exchange with the city for their share of the shared taxes. So when they have their payment ready, we'll exchange checks. Our payment to them is around $500,000. The anticipated payment from them to us is around $440,000. So we'll be turning over more to them than we are than we get from them on the shared agreement. The ambulance bill for the second quarter or we'd only made one, second quarter, that's it. We'd only made one ambulance bill payment, so it's in this grouping of bills as well. So there's 2 ambulance bill payments in this group, as well as the 911 dispatch service that we contract with the city for. That's included in this grouping. And I also just want to touch on this briefly. We just had an amendment. We will definitely be having another amendment. Amendments take time because there's 2 readings and you have to advertise, which costs money. So try not to do them until we need to really represent the money or have the expenditure, and do them kind of on a quarterly basis. But we will definitely have an amendment. As you know, we received a discretionary project approval for the road department of, I think, was it $400,000 or something like that. So that work will likely be done before the end of June, and hopefully the payment will come in also before the end of June. So that will all have to be amended in, because we do not have a budget big enough to handle that expenditure or receipt of that money. In addition, again, the timing of the flex funds from last year came in August as opposed to June, so we're already in a position where that intergovernmental revenue line item is over budget. And when you look at your revenues at the road department, you see multiple line items that are over budget on the revenue side, which is a good thing. But again, it's about timing your receipts. It's about the estimates that we're given to budget from by the state, and so those will have to be adjusted. The jail fund, the jailer's not here today, but we'll be start meeting with him next week in preparation for the New Year's budget. But the first step is always projecting the year end, and you can probably see from your expenditure report that there are going to be additional funds needed for the jail fund because of medical expenses. I doubt that they're going to have line items that will have excess enough to cover transfers. So we'll have to have a discussion about where that additional money is going to come from, or if they're anticipating any additional receipts. So we can look forward to some more amendments from some of the other funds later on.
Okay, any other, Squire Muller?
Questions or concerns?
Couple quick questions. Do you know, the jailer's not here, but do you know on those jail repairs that we approved, where they are? Is that complete?
They're finished?
They're
They are done?
100%.
Yes.
Bills,
100%?
well, 100% payment, so that is supposed to mean they're 100%
Okay.
complete, so.
He certified about a month ago that they were completed,
Okay.
and was supposed to turn in the bill and wrap that up.
Perfect. And then, and Mr. Tommy Russell might answer this, the 911, you brought that up as far as the bill. I'd kind of heard that the city was talking about maybe revamping the 911 or using something different.
I'll answer that. Susan and I and the city have had talks about some other ideas and that could help us with our budget. But it's going to be a while before we can get it implemented. But we're talking. Not ready to announce what it is or how much it is or whatever it's going to be, but there are discussions.
Okay.
We've had a meeting, and we're going to have another meeting as well soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, Kim,
Yes.
payment of bills.
Any questions?
Hold on. I got it. Oh, no, I was just noticing in the bills, there was some money allocated for the flowers, and I think that's a good thing that we were able to come together with the schools and the city to help support that.
Yeah.
So, not really a question, but thank you. That's good to see.
Yeah, we're Squire Sebastian and the FFA, as well as the city parks director, they all got together and came up with an alternative. As you all know, that I've been a strong proponent of flowers downtown, and Squire Muller, your company was part of it for a number of years, and Unfortunately, it got cut out of the budget last year, and this is another, a back way to get it in.
Squire Sebastian contacted me, and then I went and spoke with the FFA and kind of gave them our history of what works, what doesn't work. So, yeah,
Yeah.
anything to help. So I think it's a great thing to get the schools involved.
Yeah.
The more we can do that in our community, the better.
And spend our money in our community.
Well, keep that in mind next year, because it was in there and now it got took out, so as you're planning it, you know,
Right.
just remember those are important.
Yeah,
You
so,
keep
so
it in
this
there.
coming budget, we're going to have to put it back in, so,
Right.
All good.
so, okay. All right. Any other questions on bills? If not, Ms. Cox, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, the next item is other business, and Brittany, we've got an exciting announcement to make, thank you. And I know the community wants to hear this.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I do have good news. We are gonna start paper collection. Yay! So it's gonna be a drop-off point similar to how Lexington is doing paper. Well,
Well, hey,
Better than nothing.
yes.
so the whole point of a drop-off and why it's not acceptable in your curbside bin is because paper is one of the most easily contaminated items, and once it's contaminated, it's not marketable for recycling. So if we're gonna do this collection, where it's gonna be is off Riverbend, where the sheriff and the fire department. It's gonna be in that red area. We're gonna have I think it's a 20-yard container, but it's going to have a top on it with some doors. So we ask that once you do put your items in there, you close the door to keep the rain and anything else out. The only things that will be accepted in this bin are office paper, mail, magazines, newspapers, and catalogs. Please don't put anything else in there. No brown paper. It's considered contamination to the grade of paper that we are trying to get to in order to make it the most marketable and sell and do that way for recycling. So also no shredded paper. So yeah, no shredded paper, no brown bags, no plastic, no trash bags, no nothing.
You're gonna
Just
have that
paper.
out, so
Yeah,
you
we
need
will
to-
have a bunch of signage out. You will have to get out of your car to put this stuff in the bin.
Sorry, Lambert.
But it's the best we can do for right now, so we hope that everybody understands, you know, the county is working towards this, trying to get everybody a solution. And this is where we're
The
at.
city has one too.
The city will have one down at the recycle center. We are both aiming for around the 1st of March or the first week of March. They'll be announcing theirs as well. So they're both going to be open to city and county residents. They're going to be open. At least ours will be open 24 hours at first. If I see problems with contamination, we'll have to figure something out. But for right now, once it gets out there,
And I would anticipate if it's misused, it'd probably go away, won't it?
yes, that's what we've
I
talked about.
remember the dumpster sites around town.
Is this gonna be an added expense, or is it gonna be a revenue?
It,
And will it offset the cost of our,
It offset landfill.
so
Well,
right now, it will be an added expense. The judge and I have kind of talked about how we're gonna pay for it. We have a current agreement with Central Kentucky Hauling for recycling. So the money that they kick back to us for recycling, because we're currently paying for recycling, we're gonna be utilizing those funds to help offset this cost for now.
And what's the final destination for this paper?
This paper will be going to Lexington. They have a separate area that they empty the container onto, and it's processed separately so it's as clean as possible for marketing. They've talked about, or I talked to the manager there, and with all the different communities trying something like this, they're in the process of figuring out like a separate ledger to account for this paper. So it may help offset some of our costs. It may. It just depends on processing fees, and what we're trying to do is eliminate putting the paper directly on the line and having manual sorting. Because once you add manual sorting, you add processing fees, and we're trying to avoid that with as clean of a product as possible.
As you know, Lexington is doing it now too, and so that's why we wanted to get on board and start doing it, because if you recycle, I know it's hard to throw newspapers away.
Are we gonna haul it to Lexington, or are they gonna?
Central Kentucky.
Central Kentucky
So
will.
this is through our hauler right
This
now.
is through our
Yes.
hauler right
Yeah.
now. I'm working on the grant applications for 2020, 2021, and there is a recycle grant. So I'm looking into ideas of possibly getting our own piece of equipment, but there's no guarantee with those grants. You really just never know.
So what about staples?
Any
Magazines have staples.
Yeah, it's fine. It'll be, once everything's put through the paper mill, they kind of take care of, they have separate things to take care of that.
So is the paper mill in Lexington?
That, I don't think so. I do know that they
So
they
they'll
try to
process
keep
it.
certain things local, as local as possible for their vendors.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Brittany, while you're up here, I want to say this to you and say this to the community. And I'm going to say this as nicely as I can, but I mean this. I am sick and tired, and you should be sick and tired of the trash that is throughout our community. It is appalling, the amount of litter that is in our community, all over the place. I have assigned you and Billy Joe a list of roads, and you all are looking at a list of roads to clean up. And I want to say great thanks to our jailer. But I want to say this, it is the responsibility of us as a community to pick up trash as well. Because here's something that happened to the other day that appalls me. I drive, and many of you do as well, Leonard Wood. And Leonard Wood, where Walmart is. Most people don't even know the name of that road. Trash everywhere. So, everywhere. So I had the jail go out and put that on the list to pick up. They picked it up Monday or Tuesday. The next, looked beautiful. As a matter of fact, I came back to the office and said, oh, it's great. They've got it picked up. It looks so great. The very next day, there's almost the same amount of trash thrown all over the place. It is a shame. It's a shame that in this community that we don't respect our nature and our community, that we throw trash away like that. We litter. And I hope that all of us together, and all that you're doing, and all that we're trying to do, city and county-wise, that we'll all get out and start cleaning our community up and stop the littering of our community.
So I have two things to talk about with that. Yesterday, we had our group litter cleanup signups. So as of right now, there will be 10 spots that I will randomly award to groups who signed up. But I did have 38 groups sign up for this. It was open the signups were open for 12 hours. So I went through and fixed some of the entries because we had groups apply more than once. So, and it was only one per group. So the 10 spots will be notified, all those groups will be notified by next Wednesday. And I'm hoping to have the first cleanup date in mid to end March. As the judge said, Billy, Joe, and I have been working on a list of roads. We drove out about a week or two ago and checked some of the worst ones out in the county, like kind of way out there. But we'll also be identifying some of the city roads because the city doesn't apply for this grant. So we actually, as a county, are responsible for doing some of the city roads. So we'll be working on that, and we're working with the jail to kind of figure out what roads that they could clean up. Second, we are going to be doing Main Street Clean Sweep, which is something we've done in the past. It's a program that Bluegrass Green Source organizes, and Franklin County will be a community partner. That will be on Earth Day. It's April 22nd, and our event will be from 11 to 1. I will have a station set up outside the Judicial Center. There's going to be litter grabbers, gloves, bags. I'll provide everything, and the first so many people that show up will get t-shirts. What it is, give a half an hour during your lunch, come down, clean up some spot downtown, or if anybody else ever wants to pick up around their place of business or in their community, feel free, give me a call, 875-8751. Ask for me, Brittany, and I will be able to lend you equipment, and you can go clean up your neighborhood at any time.
We can use the app and.
You can use the litter app and tell everybody where you cleaned up.
All right.
Good tie-in.
Thank you, Brittany. Any questions for Brittany?
Judge, I was gonna comment, and I'm sure you have, Brittany. You were talking about Leonard Wood out there. Are we sure it's not blowing out of the business dumpsters?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
There's so many
Well,
businesses there.
the dumpsters
I haven't
are
been
in the
out
back
there.
of the building and in the back of the buildings, and it could not have.
Okay,
What I
just a
saw,
thought, just-
cans,
yeah.
tin cans aren't blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not blowing out.
Kind of give benefit.
Businesses need to take responsibility for this. I'm not gonna send a crew out every week. We shouldn't have to do that. The businesses should do. So I've asked Brittany to work with the city, Byron, with the city, to send letters to the businesses and say, this is your responsibility. Get out and start cleaning up and help beautify our city.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. I have another item that I want to announce on March the 19th. By the way, I just got a note that Marty is watching. Hi, Marty.
Sorry,
Hope you're
Marty.
watching. I hope you're not asleep, but but anyway, we miss you, Marty. But anyway, on March the 19th, there will be a luncheon fundraiser at the Foundry between 11 and 2 to help Marty with her huge expenses that are building up because of her accident. And we wish her well, but I hope all of you can come out and support Marty at that luncheon.
Can you say the time again?
The time again is March the 19th. That is a Thursday at the Foundry. The Foundry is on Broadway, and it'll be from 11 to 2. We'll have plenty of announcements out about it, but this is the first announcement concerning that issue. Okay, the next item is constitutional offices, department reports, committee updates, anything along that line. Anybody have? Yes, sir, Mr. Lewis.
I do, thank you, Judge. Squire Mueller, you mentioned the rain sensors. I was thinking multiple. We do have one sensor at the pump house.
Okay.
So when it does rain up to a certain amount, it kicks off the whole system.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Briefly, while we're all here, and I don't know, I know that some of y'all knew the news, et cetera, but I'd just like to commend to the family of Russ Sparks. No
Yes,
relation. He
thank
wouldn't
you.
claim me,
I'm sorry.
even if it was. But he was an excellent friend to us over on the other side. He was one of our bailiffs, a retired veteran, and state trooper, and he was an all-around amazing gentleman that I've had the privilege to work with over at the courthouse and otherwise when he was with the sheriff's office. And he passed away on his birthday this past weekend, the 16th. So I just wanted to remember him. He was a good friend, and he was a gentleman and an honor to the profession. And what I'd prefer to, he always tells me, I said he's one of the first real cops, and I mean that in
You're
the
right.
greatest way.
You're right.
Across the board. And we lost him on
All of us,
Sunday. Saturday.
anytime you talked with him, he was just
Totally.
a great guy to talk with and enjoy life. And we're sorry with our prayers to his family. Thank you.
He was a
Thank
credit to the post and to the sheriff's
Absolutely
office.
was. Thank you for bringing that up. Any other reports, Squire?
No report, but have we had any more discussion on the interlocal contract with the shared electrical inspector?
Did you
Yes,
discuss that?
we're having a meeting soon. They're ready to sit down. I think they've come up with some ideas. Yes, we're going to. All right, if there's nothing else, the court will, go into its voting meeting. After that, we'll recess for a site visit to visit, to look at some invasive species, which are plants, along the Kentucky
Doing good,
River.
Judge.
Yeah.
Doing good.
I noticed
Keep it up,
that.
buddy.
But anyway, on Admiral's Landing. So, 5 minutes, court. Thanks, everybody.
I just had a question.
Well, I'm sorry.
Why are we looking at this in the city?
She wants to, she wants to, show us what they look like. That's a good example.
It's close to here.
Let's call the Franklin County Fiscal Court voting session to order. This is February 21st, 2020. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Squire Sebastian. Squire Blackburn.
Present.
Squire Muller.
Present.
Squire Tracy.
Here.
Squire Booth. Squire Moore.
Here.
Judge Wells.
Here. But before we stand up and say the pledge, Squire Sebastian, who is not here today, is absent. Our prayers go to her family because her father is going through an illness and she is by his side and doing everything she can to help her father. So we send our prayers to the Squire Sebastian and her family. Also, if you notice next to between Squire Tracy and Squire Moore is an empty seat. That's Squire Booth's seat. We put a green ribbon on the seat. That's her favorite color. And we understand she's watching if she's awake. Of course, Squire Tracy is letting her know that he misses her, and we all miss her, and we wish her well. She's recovering from an accident, and we put that ribbon there in her honor and hope that she can get back as soon as possible and take that ribbon off. Also, in the front office area, we invite anybody from the community to come down. There is a card on an easel that we ask that you send your thoughts and prayers to the family, make any kind of remarks on the card that is out in the lobby area. Also on March the 19th, there will be a fundraiser luncheon from 11 to 2 at the Foundry to help Marty and her expenses that she's having to endure through this recovery process. With that being said, let's stand for the pledge. That's what I was getting ready to say. Stand for the pledge. Would you please stand for the no stand? Sheriff, will you lead us in the pledge?
Yes, sir.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. First item on the agenda is authorization for approval of the minutes from our regular meeting of January 27th, 2020.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization approval of minutes from our special meeting of February 10th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization to approve a resolution in support of the Constitution of the United States of America and the Commonwealth of Kentucky, rejecting any infringement on the rights enumerated therein.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
I want to say that I'm really happy that we're passing this, but I don't think it goes far enough. I think it's akin to telling the state we like stop signs or stop lights and not telling them where we need one. But last night, about 4 o'clock this morning, I wrote this down and I'm going to try to read it here. On April 19th, 1775, General Gage of the British military sent 700 soldiers to confiscate guns and ammunition they believed were stored at the meeting house in Concord. At the Lexington Bridge, they met 75 men and Colonel Parker, John Parker. And Colonel Parker told his men not to fire unless fired upon, and it's believed by many that the British fired the first shot. 8 Americans were killed. The rest retreated. The British marched on to Concord, where they didn't find the stashed guns and ammunition. What they found was Colonel Barrett and 400 farmers and shop owners armed to the teeth with whatever they could find, who turned away the British and chased them back to Boston, killing more than 300 of the British soldiers. This was a shot heard around the world in the beginning of American independence. And in World War II, the Japanese didn't invade the United States because they knew that behind every tree, behind every rock, and behind every bush there'd be a man, woman, or child with a gun. So they didn't dare to address that. And that's why the Second Amendment is so important, along with all the other amendments. And so I vote yes.
Judge Wells?
Thank you, Squire, for your moment in history and the shot around the world. That's interesting. I'm sorry it was 4 o'clock in the morning when you had when you looked that up. I want to say that we in our work session we had a group of people for and against the Second Amendment, and it was very civil. The discussion was very admirable between the two. And there's a gentleman sitting in the audience named Mr. Charles Sewell, who's here, and he has led the asked us to adopt a resolution, and Mr. Sewell has been very good to work with and open to keeping dialogue going and keeping civility within its bounds. And Mr. Sewell, thank you, and thanks for all those that came today on both sides and working together and bringing, even though there are differences, there was agreement in the civility of how we talk about those differences. Thank you. With that, I vote yes. Next item is authorization to see the county clerk's quarterly report for 12 months ending December 31st, 2019.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes.
Squire Muller?
Yes.
Squire Tracy?
Yes.
Squire Moore?
Yes.
Judge Wells?
Yes. Next item is authorization to receive former Sheriff Pat Melton's amended fourth quarter financial report ending December 31st, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. I will say this, that this is a report that, as our sheriff spoke about earlier, that this is an ongoing issue that we're trying to get resolved as quickly as possible to make the final payments on this, on these reports. So we're moving forward on that. Thank you, Sheriff, for working on this. Yes. Oh, we need to call the roll, sorry.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes.
Squire Muller?
Yes.
Squire Tracy?
Yes.
Squire Moore?
Yes.
Judge Wells?
Yes. Next item is authorization to approve Farmdale Sanitation District Budget Amendment for fiscal year 2019-20.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes.
Squire Muller?
Yes.
Squire Tracy?
Yes.
Squire Moore?
Yes.
Judge Wells?
Yes. Next item is authorization to approve appointment to the Farmdale Sanitation District Board, and that is, can I say the name on that?
Yeah.
Cindy R. Flack.
So. Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes.
Squire Muller?
Yes.
Squire Tracy?
Yes.
Squire Moore?
Yes.
Judge Wells?
Yes. Next item is authorization to approve appointment to the Farmdale Sanitation District Board. And that is, that was Cindy R. Flack, right? Which one did we just do? Huh?
To the Farmdale.
To the Farmdale Sanitation District Board.
You want to pick me up?
We're on Peaks Mill now. Okay, I'm sorry, I had to write their names down and, that weren't on there, so. The next item is authorization to approve appointment to the Peaks Mill Water District Board. That's Raven Turner.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
I'd like to say real quick that I appreciate everybody that's turned in applications, and I'm still going to encourage in the future people get involved in these boards because they're super important. I'm a yes.
Squire Tracy.
I'd like to thank Mr. Troutline for his service and also thank everyone that sent names or volunteered or contacted in regards to serving on the board. With that being said, I'd say yes.
Judge Wells, or Squire Moore.
Yes.
Sorry. Judge Wells.
Yes, and also thanks to Lee Troutline for his number of years of service in the dedication and the commitment through the very difficult process at Peaks Mill, which is still moving forward, and we look forward to Raven being on that board. And I wanted to say also thanks to Joy Peach for her service on the Farm Bill Sanitation Board. The next item on the agenda is authorization to approve a resolution adopting and approving the execution of a county road aid co-op program contract between the Fiscal Court and the Commonwealth of Kentucky Transportation Cabinet Department of Rural and Municipal Aid for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization to hire Tyler Gaines as a light equipment operator at the road department.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, next item is authorization to approve promotion of John Bonrit to foreman at the road department.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. The next several items are seasonal employees at golf and the park department, and we have to go through them one at a time. So I know, I wish there was another way, but evidently there isn't. So, authorization to hire Robert Kessler as seasonal golf employee.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization to hire John Folnowski as a seasonal golf employee.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization to hire C.J. Jones as seasonal golf employee.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization to hire Mark Johnson as seasonal golf employee.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is to rehire Jay Slayback as seasonal golf employee.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization to rehire Randy Oliver as a seasonal golf employee.
So, second. Take a second. So moved.
And seconded. Got that? Okay. Call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization to rehire Tony Benassi as seasonal golf employee.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization to rehire Joe Hayner as seasonal golf employee.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization to rehire Jim Parrish as seasonal golf employee.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, next item is authorization to hire Bobby Dawes as seasonal golf employee.
I'll do that. So moved. I like Bobby.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, and last but not least, authorization to rehire Sam Feldman as a seasonal park employee.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Before I move on, Counselor, is there any way that we don't have to do this type of thing again, to that you can consolidate names for hiring under one department?
Yes, what happened the last time was though that there were some inconsistent votes internally, so it led to a rejection of all of them. So the idea was to avoid maybe one or two that were not selected from being rejected. They were voted on individually, so they all stood on their own merits. So that's the process that has to be done, otherwise you place in vagary the possibility that one or more of the candidates would not be voted on, and it would therefore eliminate the whole pool.
So like we do our bills, at the end, we say, are there any
I think you did the
objections
correct,
to?
I know it's cumbersome, but some things are, I think you did the right process.
Okay, I'm just asking if there's another way.
Bills are required.
Great job.
Okay. Next item is authorization to award a bid to Summit Fire Apparatus and Custom Fabrication, the sole bidder, in the amount of $118,298.50 for the repairs of Tanker 5.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, and this is, an accident happened to the tanker, and this is to repair it and get it back in operation as soon as possible. The next item is first reading of amendment to ordinance number 5, 2019, relating to the budget for the fiscal year 2019-2020. The second reading will be on March the 16th. The next item is authorization to approve budget transfers for fiscal year 2019-2020.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization to receive the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. The next item is payment of the bills. Is there a motion to deny any payment of any claims? Claims are ordered to be paid then. Then the authorization to recess for a site visit to view invasive species infestations at 117 Admiral's Landing. No action will be taken during this recess, and we will adjourn immediately following the visit.
So moved. Second.
Go ahead, call the roll.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, okay. Thanks, everybody.